You know what I mean? I'm support what you support.
There we go.
I love you so much.
Thank you.
What happens when two of Hollywood's biggest stars are together? But somehow the smallest moments between them become more memorable than any red carpet appearance. That is exactly what keeps happening with Tom Holland and Zendaya. From playful interviews and inside jokes to the way they talk about each other, these two have created a relationship that fans simply cannot stop watching. And sometimes, they don't even need to say anything romantic. A smile, a joke, a quick compliment, or even a tiny reaction seems to tell the entire story. One of the most revealing things about Tom and Zendaya is how naturally they talk about each other. When Tom is asked about Zendaya, he doesn't simply give the usual celebrity answer. Instead, his words often sound personal, affectionate, and incredibly genuine. He has described her as one of the most important people in his life and has made it clear that he sees her as someone truly special. And Zendaya seems to have the exact same energy whenever the conversation turns toward Tom. She has repeatedly spoken about his talent, his personality, and the way he approaches his work. But what makes her comments especially interesting is that she doesn't just praise his career. She seems genuinely proud of the person he has become. That's something fans have noticed for years. Their relationship started with friendship and work. They met through the Spider-Man franchise and spent years getting to know each other before their relationship became public. That history is important because it explains why their connection often feels so comfortable. They didn't meet as two celebrities looking for a famous romance. They met as young actors. They worked together. They joked around. They became friends. And somewhere along the way, that friendship developed into something much deeper. That's why some of their most entertaining moments don't even feel like celebrity interviews. They feel like two people who have known each other for a very long time, simply being themselves. Take the way they tease one another. Tom can make a joke about Zendaya, and she immediately knows how to respond. Zendaya can make a playful comment about Tom, and he knows exactly what she means. There is an obvious rhythm between them. It's almost like they have their own language. And fans love seeing that. During one conversation, Tom was asked about Zendaya's character Athena, and whether the character could have romantic feelings for Odysseus. His answer was immediate and hilarious. Tom basically joked that Athena couldn't possibly fall for Odysseus because she was already married to him. The comment was clearly playful, but the reaction was exactly what fans expected. People laughed. Tom smiled. And suddenly, another tiny moment between the couple became something fans wanted to talk about. It's not necessarily the words themselves. It's the confidence with which Tom says them. He seems completely comfortable expressing affection for Zendaya, even when he's doing it through humor. And that's one of the things that separates their dynamic from a typical celebrity relationship. They don't always need a huge, romantic declaration. Sometimes a joke says enough. Then there are the compliments. Tom has been openly supportive of Zendaya's career, and Zendaya has been equally enthusiastic about Tom's achievements. Whenever one of them reaches another professional milestone, the other seems genuinely happy for them. That's particularly important because both of them have careers that could easily create competition. They're both major stars. They're both incredibly busy. They're both constantly working on huge projects. Yet the public moments we've seen suggest that they don't treat each other's success as a threat. Instead, they celebrate it. Zendaya can talk about Tom's performance with obvious pride. Tom can talk about Zendaya's talent without trying to make the conversation about himself. That mutual support has become one of the most recognizable parts of their relationship. And then there are the fashion moments. Apparently, sharing clothes isn't unusual for these two. Tom has joked about borrowing Zendaya's clothes and has even been seen wearing items associated with her wardrobe. At one point, the idea of Zendaya having better clothes than Tom became part of the joke itself. And honestly, fans can understand why. Zendaya has become one of the most recognizable fashion figures in Hollywood. So if Tom wants to borrow something from her closet, he's probably making a pretty smart decision. But the funny thing is that the relationship seems to work both ways. Their teasing suggests that they are comfortable enough to share little parts of their everyday lives. It's not necessarily glamorous. It's not always romantic. Sometimes it's simply funny. And that's exactly what makes it feel believable. Another fascinating part of their relationship is how they talk about growing up together. They didn't meet after both had already become established Hollywood stars. They experienced an important part of their lives while working together. They watched each other mature. They saw each other's careers evolve. They experienced success, pressure, criticism, and major life changes alongside one another. That's something that is difficult to recreate. Zendaya has spoken about how meaningful it is to grow with someone she loves. The idea isn't simply that she has a famous boyfriend or husband. It's that she has someone who has been there through different stages of her life. Someone who knew her when she was younger. Someone who understands where she came from. And someone who has seen the changes that happened along the way. That kind of history can create an entirely different type of connection. Zendaya has also described the feeling of knowing when someone is truly right for you as something peaceful rather than stressful. And that idea says a lot. Because celebrity relationships are usually surrounded by noise. There are cameras, rumors, headlines, speculation, social media discussions. Every public appearance can become a story. Yet behind all of that, the relationship itself can still be quiet, private, comfortable. And that's exactly what Tom and Zendaya appear to value. They don't seem interested in explaining every detail of their personal lives to the public. In fact, Tom has openly talked about wanting to protect his relationship from unnecessary attention. That privacy may actually be one of the reasons fans are so fascinated by them. Because when they do reveal something, people pay attention. A casual comment suddenly feels important. A joke becomes a headline. A smile becomes a viral clip. And an affectionate nickname can send the internet into a frenzy. That's the strange reality of being one of Hollywood's most watched couples. Even normal behavior becomes entertainment. But perhaps the most interesting thing about Tom and Zendaya is that, despite all the attention, they still seem capable of laughing at themselves. Their interviews frequently turn chaotic. They interrupt each other. They laugh. They forget answers. They tease one another. Sometimes they completely lose track of the original question. And those moments can be much more revealing than a carefully prepared interview. Because when people stop trying to give the perfect answer, their natural personalities start to appear. And Tom and Zendaya seem especially comfortable in those situations. They can go from discussing a major movie to making a completely ridiculous joke within seconds. One moment they're talking about acting. The next, they're arguing about a tiny detail. Then they're laughing again. That chemistry is difficult to fake. And fans have noticed. Even their co-stars and interviewers sometimes seem amused by how quickly the two fall into their familiar rhythm. It's almost like watching two longtime friends who just happen to be incredibly famous. And that may be the secret. Before they became a couple, they were friends. Before they became husband and wife, they were co-stars. Before the red carpets and worldwide attention, they were simply two young people trying to make it in Hollywood. That history gives their relationship a foundation that fans can see. And perhaps that's why every new interview creates another viral moment. Because people aren't just watching two celebrities. They're watching a story that has been developing for years. And the more they reveal, the more fans become curious about what happens when the cameras disappear. But there's another side to this story that makes their relationship even more fascinating. Because while Tom and Zendaya are incredibly playful in public, there are also moments when their words become surprisingly serious. Moments when they stop joking. Moments when they talk about what the other person actually means to them. And that's where their relationship becomes much more than just a collection of funny interviews. The deeper connection behind all those jokes, smiles, and teasing moments. Because beneath the humor, there appears to be something incredibly important. Trust. Tom has spoken about how valuable it is to be in a relationship with someone who understands the unique pressures of his career. And that makes perfect sense. Imagine living a life where millions of people have opinions about your work. Imagine having photographers following you. Imagine every mistake becoming a headline. Now imagine going home to someone who understands exactly what that feels like. That is the situation Tom and Zendaya find themselves in. They don't have to explain every part of their careers to one another. They understand. They both know what it means to film for months. They understand what premieres are like. They know what happens when social media starts analyzing every photograph. And because they're both actors, they understand the emotional demands of performing for a living. That shared experience can create a unique bond. Tom has even suggested that having someone in the same industry can be incredibly valuable because you can share experiences that outsiders might not fully understand. And that's one of the reasons their relationship seems so strong. They aren't simply supporting each other's careers from a distance. They're living through similar experiences. Zendaya knows what Tom's pressure looks like. Tom knows what Zendaya's pressure looks like. And when one of them is facing a major project, the other can understand just how much work goes into it. This becomes especially interesting when you look at Tom's recent career. He's taking on increasingly ambitious projects. And The Odyssey represents a huge opportunity for him to demonstrate a different side of his acting ability. Zendaya is also taking on major roles and continuing to establish herself as one of Hollywood's most respected young stars. So both are growing professionally at the same time. But instead of competing for attention, they appear to encourage each other. That is a powerful dynamic. And it explains why so many fans describe them as a team. Even when they are working separately, there is a sense that they remain connected. Then there are those unforgettable little comments. Tom casually referring to Zendaya as his wife. Zendaya joking about their relationship, the deeper connection behind all those jokes, smiles, and teasing moments. Because beneath the humor, there appears to be something incredibly important. Trust. Tom has spoken about how valuable it is to be in a relationship with someone who understands the unique pressures of his career. And that makes perfect sense. Imagine living a life where millions of people have opinions about your work. Imagine having photographers following you. Imagine every mistake becoming a headline. Now imagine going home to someone who understands exactly what that feels like. That is the situation Tom and Zendaya find themselves in. They don't have to explain every part of their careers to one another. They understand. They both know what it means to film for months. They understand what premieres are like. They know what happens when social media starts analyzing every photograph. And because they're both actors, they understand the emotional demands of performing for a living. That shared experience can create a unique bond. Tom has even suggested that having someone in the same industry can be incredibly valuable because you can share experiences that outsiders might not fully understand. And that's one of the reasons their relationship seems so strong. They aren't simply supporting each other's careers from a distance. They're living through similar experiences. Zendaya knows what Tom's pressure looks like. Tom knows what Zendaya's pressure looks like. And when one of them is facing a major project, the other can understand just how much work goes into it. This becomes especially interesting when you look at Tom's recent career. He's taking on increasingly ambitious projects. And the Odyssey represents a huge opportunity for him to demonstrate a different side of his acting ability. Zendaya is also taking on major roles and continuing to establish herself as one of Hollywood's most respected young stars. So both are growing professionally at the same time. But instead of competing for attention, they appear to encourage each other. That is a powerful dynamic. And it explains why so many fans describe them as a team. Even when they are working separately, there is a sense that they remain connected. Then there are those unforgettable little comments. Tom casually referring to Zendaya as his wife. Zendaya joking about their relationship. The two discussing vacations. Their playful arguments. Their shared clothes. Their inside jokes. None of these moments, individually, prove anything dramatic. But together, they create a picture of two people who seem extremely comfortable with each other. And perhaps the most revealing part is that they don't seem to need to perform romance for the cameras. They can simply exist around each other. Sometimes they laugh. Sometimes they tease. Sometimes they disagree over something completely ridiculous. And sometimes they just stand next to each other. For fans, that ordinary comfort can be more meaningful than a staged romantic moment. Because real relationships aren't made entirely of dramatic declarations. They're built through thousands of small interactions. A conversation at the end of a long day. A joke only two people understand. A supportive message. A quiet smile. Someone waiting for you. Someone knowing when you're stressed. Someone understanding your strange habits. Someone who has watched you grow. That's what makes the history between Tom and Zendaya so interesting. They've had years to learn each other's personalities. And you can see that familiarity during interviews. Tom knows when Zendaya is joking. Zendaya knows when Tom is exaggerating. They can predict each other's reactions. Sometimes they even finish each other's thoughts. And when an interviewer asks something unexpected, they often look at each other before answering. That tiny reaction says a lot. It's the reaction of people who are used to checking in with each other. Another thing that makes their dynamic entertaining is how easily they get distracted. A serious interview can suddenly turn into laughter. A simple question can become a debate. A compliment can turn into teasing. And before anyone realizes it, they're completely off topic. But that's exactly why viewers keep watching. It feels spontaneous. It feels human. And in an industry where interviews are often carefully controlled, those moments are refreshing. Even their fans' favorite clips tend to be the ones that weren't necessarily planned. The moments where Tom laughs unexpectedly. The moments where Zendaya gives him a look. The moments when one of them says something that the other clearly wasn't expecting. Those are the clips that circulate online. Those are the moments people replay. And those are the moments that remind everyone why this couple has such a loyal following. Of course, it's important to remember that fans only see a small portion of their lives. No matter how many interviews they give or how many red carpets they attend, the majority of their relationship remains private. And that's probably intentional. Tom has made it clear that his relationship is something he considers deeply personal. Zendaya has also maintained strong boundaries around her private life. They understand that people are curious, but they don't believe the public is entitled to every detail. And honestly, that may be one of the healthiest things about their relationship. They share enough for fans to feel connected, but they keep enough for themselves. That balance is difficult for any celebrity couple, especially when both people are internationally famous. Yet Tom and Zendaya seem determined to maintain it. And perhaps that's why every little glimpse becomes so valuable. When Tom calls Zendaya his wife, fans notice. When Zendaya praises Tom, fans notice. When they laugh together, fans notice. When they attend an event together, fans notice. But underneath, all the attention is something much simpler. Two people who seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company. Two people who have watched each other grow. Two people who understand the strange world they're living in. And two people who, despite everything surrounding them, appear to have built a private space that belongs only to them. Their journey from Spider-Man co-stars to life partners has been anything but ordinary. But perhaps the most beautiful part isn't the celebrity headlines. It isn't the red carpets. It isn't the viral clips. It's the friendship underneath everything. Because when the cameras disappear, careers change, movies finish, and headlines move on to the next story, that foundation is what remains. And that may be why Tom and Zendaya continue to capture so much attention. Their relationship isn't interesting simply because they're famous. It's interesting because, through all the fame, they still seem to find ways to make each other laugh. They still tease each other. They still support one another. And they still appear genuinely proud of each other's achievements. So the next time a Tom Holland and Zendaya interview goes viral, look beyond the obvious. Look at the little reactions, the quick smiles, the inside jokes, the way they listen to each other. Because sometimes, the smallest moments tell the biggest story. And after years of watching their journey unfold, one thing is clear. Tom Holland and Zendaya aren't just two Hollywood stars who happen to be together. They're two people who grew alongside each other, and that's what makes their story so compelling. Now I want to hear from you. Which Tom and Zendaya moment is your favorite? Was it one of their hilarious interviews, one of Tom's sweet comments about Zendaya, or one of those quiet moments where their chemistry says everything without either of them saying much? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Tom Holland and Zendaya's relationship, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because there are always more celebrity stories, more unexpected moments, and more Hollywood surprises coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.